Hi, I'm Marty Grimes with Santa Clara Valley Water District. In this month's episode of The People Behind Your Water, we're going to go to the top of Anderson Dam, where recently we had a celebration to launch the Santa Clara Valley Habitat Plan. And we're also going to be talking to Deborah Calden of Santa Clara Valley Water District, who's been working on that plan for many years. So stick around.
This historic creation will help private and public entities plan and implement projects in ways that reduce their impact on natural resources, including threatened and endangered species, while also expediting the permitting process. And I think that one sentence, although it's a mouthful, really summarizes what we've accomplished here, and I think that deserves a round of applause. As the father of the Santa Clara Valley Habitat Plan, welcome Mayor Gage.
Thank you very much, Mike. They asked me to talk about the beginning, and being as old as I am, sometimes I can't remember when the beginning was. But I do remember the day that we had a meeting with federal fish and wildlife agencies. And at that time, the person who was running the show was Wayne White. And we had a meeting in our conference room up on the 10th floor where the Board of Supervisors sat. We were 6 weeks before the opening of the 101, the 4 lanes that were added from Morgan Hill to San Jose. And Wayne, we get in, we introduced everybody, we're having a nice chat, and all of a sudden Wayne says, well, he says, you're not going to be able to open up the 101. 6 weeks away, mind you. And I said, what do you mean we can't open it up? He says, well, you haven't taken care of the mitigation, the butterfly habitat that's to the north of us here, and you have to do that before we can allow the 101 to open. Well, I said, Wayne, I said, 6 weeks? I said, we have to buy land, we have to do all this stuff. He says, well, I'll give you time, and it was a handshake. I said, you give us the time, you open the 101, and I'll make sure that the habitat plan gets done. So a decade later, here we are.
I was talking to Blanca Alvarado earlier, and she mentioned, as we looked out over this beautiful valley, what the Habitat Conservation Plan is all about. It's protecting these wonderful natural resources that we have. So thank you all, especially Don Gage, Blanca, Ken Schreiber, and all of those who worked very early on to make this a reality.
I'm so proud to be here from a community that pulls together and makes things happen like this for our community and for the next generation. I have a few points that are already written down here, but I just want to say personally, this is about our children and our grandchildren. This is about really providing a future for them.
We can take pride that the Santa Clara Valley Habitat Conservation Plan will be used as a model, as referred to by so many others today, by many other regions in developing their own conservation plans. And I know that VTA looks forward to working with all the local partners, certainly the City of San Jose, in order to achieve the goals of the Habitat Plan. And I am an environmentalist. I think that all of us really must be in this day and age. And the great thing about it is that we can set and achieve really important environmental goals for future generations, and yet at the same time be in complete harmony with the needs of our residents and our businesses and our development community. And I think this plan here demonstrates that, and it's an honor for me to have the opportunity to play a small role in it. So thank you all.
Dennis, you got to sign here too. You got to sign twice.
Oh, okay.
So I'm here with Don Arnold. Don, you're a biologist with Santa Clara Valley Water District,
Yes, I am.
and you've been involved with the Valley Habitat Plan at some point along the way?
For about 10 years.
That's a long way. What's your involvement?
I lead the biological resources evaluation for the water district, so I get the biological information from the management team and the regulatory agencies, and have our staff, our biological staff, work it over and make sure it's the best move for the district and protects the resources that we're trying to protect.
Great, and when we assume it is, because we are signed on to this plan.
Sign on to this plan, and now the proof will be in the pudding as we go forward.
Okay, and I hear that from where we stand on top of the dam, there are some endangered or threatened species visible
Yes.
close by. Can you point to what we can look at from here?
Yes, on the north side of the dam, we have the Coyote Ceanothus, which is a federally listed species that we are hoping to protect as we seismically retrofit the dam. And because we will impact some of the population, we are currently, as we speak, creating a new test area for creating a new location, a new population of Coyote Ceanothus.
Up on the Coyote Ridge, is that over there?
On the Coyote Ridge, which is north of us from here.
Great.
Yes.
So I'm looking. Do you want to point the camera over there to show where we're looking? Okay.
The species is hard to pick out. It is just on the hillside, just up the hill from here. It's a green shrub that if we were closer we could point out, but it is only found in Santa Clara County and only in 3 locations, and this is one of the locations on this hillside.
And so we've been taking some seeds and growing them and replanting them up on that ridge that you mentioned, right?
That's correct. We've grown the seeds into seedlings and are getting ready to plant them this fall.
Oh, we're going to come out there and see that.
Yes, you will.
That'll be great. Anything else you want to say about the habitat plan?
Other than that, we really do hope that this is the best foot forward for the biological resources we're trying to protect and the economic development in the county.
Excellent. Nice summation. Thanks. We are right now in the back of the Santa Clara Valley Water District headquarters building along the beginning of the Guadalupe River. And I'm here with Deborah Calden, who is, what's your title at the district?
I'm the unit manager for the Water Resources Planning Unit, where I do environmental permitting for the water utility and other aspects of the district operations.
All right. So I wanted to talk to you about the Santa Clara Valley Habitat Plan. You've been working on it for quite some time, probably since you started at the water district, right?
It's been a long process to get this plan developed and permitted with all the agencies and our local partners. So yes, it's been since 2002, which is when I started at the district.
Okay.
So,
And it's a huge plan, really. We won't go over it page by page right now, but it's something like, what, 20,000 pages?
it's about 3,000 pages,
Oh, okay.
but you're
It's
thinking of the
a
Bay Delta
digest.
plan, which
Okay.
is more like 25,000 pages.
So a mere 3,000
A mere
pages.
3,000 pages of fascinating reading about the local flora and fauna that are endangered and the development plans and preserve areas that the plan will protect
Okay.
over the next 50 years.
All right. So just in big picture, what is a habitat conservation plan?
A habitat conservation plan is the way you get long-term permits for the Endangered Species Act under the federal law. And this one also has the state Environmental Endangered Species Act associated with it too. So these are plans that have very long-term, long planning horizons that allow you to get 50 years worth of certainty about your permitting, and allows the local agencies and others to have preserve areas to really provide communities for these species to thrive, even though people are still living in an area and there's development like that. So these plans are enabling us to protect threatened and endangered species while at the same time allowing for economic development. So it's a win-win.
All right. A win for the environment, a win for developers
developers, businesses,
And the government
and public agencies, because we have to maintain the roads and the areas like dams and infrastructure. So everybody wins in these situations.
So the water district is one of the agencies involved. We have to get permits from various agencies to do work that we need to do for flood protection or water supply.
That's right. And so this is one of the things that's very difficult for the water district, because we do so much of our work in these remaining nice areas in this otherwise urban area. So the district has a great stake and benefit out of this plan, because when we have to maintain these streams for flood management, when we have to maintain these perk ponds for our water supply, our pipelines, our dams, and all the other infrastructure that goes into managing our water supply system, this enables us to have to basically have cost-efficient permitting to do that. Otherwise, sometimes it can take a very long time and be very expensive to really get all the clearances we need from the agencies.
And that was the status quo before this plan, is that every project would have to go through a process of getting permits, and there's a lot of uncertainty, and it would take a lot of time, cost money.
Costs a lot of money, and it gets harder and harder to do mitigation, because there's not that much land left that's available to be able to mitigate. That, you know, the mitigation has to be associated with the species you're trying to mitigate for. So it gets more and more difficult to find mitigation areas, particularly when you're competing with your other local agencies and developers that have the same kind of thing.
But now,
there's only so much land available.
But now we're connected, or the plan includes the water district, VTA, the city of San Jose, and Gilroy and Morgan Hill.
And the county. So all of us are working together to essentially, instead of everyone doing their own separate little mitigation plans, working together to pool, sort of an economy of scale, pool money that would otherwise be put into these separate mitigation projects into larger preserve areas, which are much better for the species and much more cost efficient for all of us. And so that's why it's a win-win. And then these areas are managed over a long horizon, in perpetuity, so that you're really establishing an area for these species to exist and thrive that's going to be protected forever. When they have a little bit of a mitigation site, sometimes these things get forgotten, they don't get managed. The thing that we're doing that's very important is these are big enough areas and they have connectivity to allow these species to, that's one of the big limiting factors for these species, is their ability to move along a system and go outside their neighborhood, so to speak, so that they can have species diversity, genetic diversity, and the kinds of things that really does make healthy populations for these creatures. So it's a very important thing that we've supported along with our local partners and now co-permittees to be able to do the work that we need to do, and at the same time support a larger preserve area. Probably the best example that's coming up very quickly for us is Anderson Dam, which is our largest water supply dam, and it was built back in the 50s before we knew a lot about the local seismic faults. And what we've discovered is that it's kind of built in an area that needs to be stabilized much better according to current seismic requirements. So that's a dam that we really need to reconstruct to make it seismically safe. At the same time, that dam is located in one of the last areas for this serpentine soil species, the bay checker spot butterfly, which is the major protected species.
And there's a shrub there too. Right?
Yes, the Coyote Ceanothus. It's the only place, as far as we can tell, in the entire world where this one particular shrub grows. So those are the kinds of instances where it makes it almost impossible to get a permit within any kind of reasonable period of time. With the plan in place, though, we've been able to agree on how we're going to do the mitigation and basically have certainty about when we can really do the work on the dam, and we believe we've shortened the time frame for our permitting by a couple, 3 years. And that makes all the difference when we're trying to get this retrofit done as quickly as possible. So we've gotten the concurrence of the agencies, even though we have to really scrape away a certain area of this very, very, very rare plant.
And you're talking about the Fish and Wildlife agencies?
Yes, we're talking about the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service and then the California Department of Fish and Wildlife, which are the two agencies that have the responsibility for those type of endangered species.
And this plan that we've come to agreement on is one of few in the state. How does it compare to other habitat conservation plans?
Well, I mean, it is every time they do these plans, which take a long time. I mean, the average time to do one of these plans is about 12 to 15 years.
So we're right on average there.
Right on average. And ours actually is very forward-thinking in that part of the fees that are paid, because again, what the plan does is instead of buying land and managing your own little mitigation plot, as a developer, as an agency, you write a check, you pay your fees to the agency that then's going to manage the preserve. So essentially what we've done is we have an endowment so that there is money to manage these preserve areas. And let me talk about the preserve areas a little bit. The beauty of that is they're kind of we've been lucky here in the Bay Area and in South County in that we have the Open Space Authority and the county park system and state parks. So the preserve areas are kind of going to fill in those gaps. And I think the district's really excited because we, instead of spending a lot of time, money, and effort, we're paying a much lower rate for mitigation, while at the same time having another agency which is better at it manage it. So we get to focus on the things that we do well, which is provide water supply and flood management and like that. And so our stewardship, we're working with our partner agencies, but we're not responsible for every aspect of it, which can get very, when you're trying to manage just a lot of small areas, can get very time-consuming and expensive. So we're, so the district benefits, and again, we're doing the same thing with our other aspects of our dam maintenance. We recently built the purification center up in the North County near the treatment plant, and we were able to mitigate for that for the owl, the burrowing owl, through the plan as well.
The burrowing owl is one of the 18 species in the plan?
The species in the plan. The main species are the bay checker spot butterfly.
And you're holding
a picture of one. That's the picture was taken by Stuart Weiss, who's one of the major biologists for the bay checker spot. And these I know they're not a real fancy-looking butterfly, but they're very rare. They only exist on the east side here of Santa Clara Valley and near Stanford, and then on San Bruno Mountain. And they basically require certain kinds of plant species to complete their life cycle. And those plant species really require a special kind of soil, serpentine soils, which is hence their rarity. Yeah. So, those are the major species that started the plan, but it also protects the California tiger salamander, the California red-legged frog, and some other plant species and animal species.
But there's the threatened or
pond turtle, which is a special status species. Okay. The western burrowing owl, which is a special status species. So there's some state and federal species. And one thing, the plan, there is a website. You can go through the district website to link into the plan. There's a lot of discussion about each of those 18 species, and also shows you some of the projected preserve areas and other areas that we're in where they're already protected that are going to be enrolled in the preserve area.
So there's the 18 species that are in the plan, but then once you protect these acres, any number of species, threatened or not, will also...
Everybody benefits.
Everybody benefits.
I think that from the standpoint of the agencies, certainly those lands have to be managed these to conserve the species and basically recover those that are near the edge. And then from the standpoint of the local public, we'll have that open space area protected, and in some cases managed to allow recreation and like that. Okay. I mean, normally the two don't go quite together, but it's an important aspect of what we're doing is to make sure that the public's aware and there's public education. And that's something that we're putting together right now. The plan the permits were issued and everything was ready to go. It just opened October 15th. The doors to the Valley Habitat Agency, which is the agency that ultimately will be administering the plan and that we're, a part of. The doors just opened October 15th. So this is hot off the presses.
Okay, we're just really getting started.
Really getting
started. So the preserve is more than, is it 46,000 acres that ultimately will be protected in perpetuity?
That's right. In perpetuity is the word, which means forever. And that endowment that we're collecting, which is kind of a new thing, is going to help make sure that there's funds available to essentially manage these areas for the good of all for as long as we're around.
And how does that compare to other reserves in the county? It sounds like I was looking at it, it's about a third the size of San Jose.
It's a very large area. And again, what it does do is knit together for continuity open space areas that are also managed by Mid-Peninsula Open Space, some other county park areas. And I think that East Bay Mud, East Bay Municipal, East Bay Regional Park District, there's, we're getting to where we have a whole sort of watershed around the urban Bay Area that's really being managed for conservation values. This is good for the water district too, because remember, our water comes from the rainfall in these areas, and preserving their natural, status really helps improve the water quality when it goes into our dams. So it's something that there's a lot of other corollary benefits that arise from doing these kinds of projects. So it's a win-win for everybody.
All right. Well, thank you.
Very excited about that.
Good. Well, thank you for giving us a good overview of the plan and what it means for the water district and the community and all those species that are going to benefit. Beyond that, I wanted to just talk about you and your career here at the Water District, you said you've been here for about 11 years.
It'll be 12, almost 12 years. Almost 12 years.
And we were talking a few weeks ago about your previous life. Where were you before, and why did you decide to come to the Water District at this point, or 10 or 11 years ago, 12 years ago?
Well, I did work for the City of San Jose. I managed their stormwater program, and I was very interested in getting focused on watershed type, watershed management, which is something that I did before I was at the city.
Which was where did you do that?
Well, I worked for EPA for a number of years doing the watershed management for EPA, starting with the basic change from just point source to non-point source, looking at larger water quality issues. And then I did a lot of work, private sector did water resource planning, the Garcia River Plan, I worked on the Klamath Plan. So that sort of watershed approach to improving the environment, not just looking at one little piece, but looking at the overall watershed and finding ways to work with nature and with people to improve the natural environment. So that's where I spent my career for about longer than I'd like to admit.
Right. Don't need to. But then you decided to come here and bring your experiences. And why did you come here? What did you want to accomplish by coming to the Water District?
Well, managing water is probably the most important thing you can do. And I was interested in watershed management, and the district had the potential to do a lot more watershed management, and I came here to try to help them do that. And I hope that I've made some progress in that regard. Certainly, I think the district's moved more towards a watershed stewardship model, which is very good to see, and is working to incorporate better and better management practices in their operations to ensure that the environment's protected when they do their work. There's a lot of really talented people here. There's some great biologists and environmental folks, and I'm hoping that when I do retire, that they'll continue those programs and actually improve them, because it's a very big job to be able to manage water supply and flood management at the same time, protect the environment. It's a very big job. and it takes a lot of dedication, but I think that's what the public really wants.
Absolutely.
Serve the public well. So I'm hoping that we continue that. I've seen some changes, and it's been good to watch.
Great.
Beats stormwater. Now it falls. What can I say?
Well, great. Well, thanks again for
Right.
talking to us today. And
Thanks for your time, Marty. It's been a pleasure.
Okay.
I got to spend some time outdoors.
So what an interesting legacy this will provide for Santa Clara Valley, a 50-year plan that will preserve more than 46,000 acres in perpetuity. Thank you for joining us in this month's episode. Please come to our website, valleywater.org, and you can sign up for our monthly e-newsletter and connect with us on Facebook and Twitter, and we'll see you next month.